John Hudspeth again for this video, and I'm playing some classical pieces that I haven't recorded before, with the exception of a Rachmaninoff Vocalise that I'm going to play a little longer version of, To My Cousin Helen. But these first ones are going to be 3 Bach songs devoted to his daughters, because Bach had a total of 20 children between 2 wives, and some of them grew up to be musicians, everything the father. And these I learned from the late Ezra Rockland in 1957. I was taking music, and it was about 10. And I still remember these from that time. He was our late symphony conductor here in Austin at that time. And here's 3 now. Second one. Number 3 of these. But right now I'm going to do a short minuet that I also learned among this series of song-like ones by Bach. This one's a little different with a major key, as they call it, and with a minor deviation in back. But Bach wrote many simple as well as many complicated pieces. got a couple of different variations I made on Bach's techniques and stuff on video 5, but this 14's got some additional. And next will be the third movement of Mozart Sonata. I think it's number 11. The third movement called a Turkish March. My mother used to play this whole thing. I got this idea around 1960 to play it. My late Aunt Betty told me when she heard it though, I had problems of going too fast, using the pedal too much, and certain other things because it's really supposed to be even with Mozart and a slower march. So I just recently, last year, recalled most of the notes that I memorized and played them in this new version. And my late Aunt Betty, who died a year and a half ago, was one of my early music sources, as well as a person named Kay Race that's here at Westminster, but unfortunately in a medical unit now, memory unit. But she taught me before she had her problems to slow down and be more even, less pedals. So here we go with a Turkish March. And my mother often played the first movement a lot too, that I didn't bother to learn. Try to slow it down so it has the La Turca mode. Now, I'm going to play just a sort of excerpt from a very long piece, had as many as 27 pages, although I never learned it all. But Arthur Rubinstein has a real good recording of this, but one of the top pros. But my mother played this back in 1938, this Grieg ballad, and I'm going to play excerpts from its main tune. It's kind of a serious minor tune, showing the bleak maybe represent the bleak coast of Norway, because this was by Edvard Grieg, and he lived in Norway. And you can sort of get that feeling if you think of it. I'll play the main theme of it, which it starts out with, and I'll play up to a point and then finish it, because there are many piano exercises and different notes that just drifts all over the whole 27 pages worth of music. But she accomplished it in 1938 at 15 in a Minnesota chapel, being bitten by mosquitoes that summer while she was playing, but she did a good job. But anyway, you'll hear the basic tune, and if you want to hear the rest, you can leave it up to one of Arthur Rubinstein's good recordings. But this is emotional effect to my mother, who died here at Westminster on September 20th, 2000 from Alzheimer's complications. But in memory of her, some of this music represents it. Back and forth, different than that, to the end right here. Those are special memory of my mother. So now what's remaining is Brahms' short waltz in A-flat major. Don't know much, but Brahms had close relation with Robert Schumann, who wrote other pieces, but got mentally ill and was confined to a mental hospital back in the 1800s. We didn't know how to deal with it. But Brahms was allowed to visit him a lot, and they worked in close partnership. And he kept a close relationship with Clara Schumann, the widow of Robert Schumann, but she played the piano better than he did, even before. But he could write music and she could really play it. And she lived on until 1896. Him and Schumann died in 1856, I think, and Brahms lived on until 1897. He wrote all kinds of interesting music, including 70s and other different things. But this simple waltz is the one I'm playing. He kept a relationship with Claire. She died in 1896, but the next year he died of cancer. But he left behind a lot of interesting other music you can hear from Brahms, even though I've not played much. But this is one of his simple pieces. I learned sort of by ear back in the late 50s. The main piece I'm going to emphasize here, with several repeats that I didn't show in the old video 6, is Rachmaninoff's Vocalise. Rachmaninoff is a Russian composer and grew up in the late 1800s or early 1900s, in the days before communism and the revolution, and composed a lot. And he followed the romantic trend, the romantic tradition in many of them, unlike those that were getting more modern forms of music, including Impressionism and stuff, but he was not deeply into that. And this Vocalise was a choral piece, and he tried to play it as a real beautiful melody instead of a dissonant one, to try to show hope in the midst of terrible situations. And he had to flee Russia in 1917 or shortly after, get out, and then came to America, and he died in America in 1943. Cancer, but he played a lot in California and other places, but never came back to his country, although one of his comrades, Horowitz, late in his life went back there because Horowitz joined him some at that time. But this Vocalise was trying to calm a troubled mind, even in the midst of tragedy, with some hope. And it's been on choral piece and strings, but Robert Schultz wrote this about 1991 using augmented notes that get the same effect, which can be played with the piano, like I'm going to do with instruments. And this is true to my cousin Helen, who died last year of depression, but because she lost her parents and lost her husband, and never could find anybody else she could really associate with, and the family members that moved out of Houston, and never could find anybody that could give her the attention she needed with shyness and depression. But she was a very passionate lady who really cared about others, even when she was depressed herself. And this is my tribute to her positive contribution she made to the lives of certain other people, and maybe to animals, including ponies and dogs and cats. She was very passionate, and she supported me with my Asperger problems of having trouble in society before we understood this. I was glad to see me live to understand it and like these videos. And she's tried to support my brother Philip, who's had a lot of unlucky breaks in his life. I won't go into details, but she showed real compassion for him too. Even when she was depressed herself, she showed the unselfish thing, and she benefited her aunt and her father by just giving caregiver attention that was beyond what most do. So in true to my cousin Helen, I think I'll use this because it sort of reflects what she tried to show, give others hope even if she was depressed herself. You know. And Rachmaninoff tried to sort of give that feeling, which is contrast to maybe this other piece that read the darkness of the war with Lenin and Stalin ruling. that's how I'll include it into my cousin Helen, for the tough times she lived in, and also thinking of Rachmaninoff, who lived in such tough times too, but this is a piece that brings calm to a troubled mind, instead of showing its dissonant notes, so, even though he wrote a lot of good pieces. So, and that's my tribute to cousins, and a lot of this is tributes to my late parents who died here in 2000, and sometimes certain other people that have heard some of this, and like Vincent and Barbara Bove and Dr. Charles and Tina Queen, and others. This is the last piece they heard me play and then died soon afterward. So, but I'm glad I could have a sort of positive and calming note for this, and I'm grateful I can bring my music to the world this way to those who want to do it. So, bless you all. Maybe I'll make some more, but I'm glad for the 14 I've made now. And best to everyone here at Westminster and elsewhere.